starts with us and the layers that we put on ourselves and what other people have put onto us. And because of that, we perceive other people and slap on those labels, those stereotypes, those judgments. And yes, they help us navigate through the world to an extent, because it helps us understand how we can communicate with people when we are conscientious enough and maybe empathetic enough to feel that between someone. But like I said, it also kind of slaps on that layer of like, okay, this is how I have to be, or this is how I have to fall into this category because someone has labeled me this specific way. And so when you close that door to people who aren't like-minded, you close that door to an opportunity to learn something, an opportunity to open your mind, and maybe to make some type of partnership that may not have been ideal, or may not have even have happened if you completely closed that door. And that is for anything, not just politics in this pandemic, but basically anything in the world, and the way that we start to get older and realize that we don't have to fall into these little cliques that we've put ourselves in for so long. And, you know, during this time, this is something that I've continued to just let people sit on. But there's so much hate going around in the world because of difference in opinions. And yes, some people's difference in opinions are just morally wrong, right? Like there can be a difference in opinions, but sometimes, you know, it's like, well, killing somebody is just wrong no matter what. And we can all fight that statement, but you know, that would just be an example. And so when you can kind of just come to certain agreements and also open your mind, I think that will open a lot of people's minds to just being able to listen. We're so quick to talk and to throw in our point of view or our conversation because we want to be heard, and it's our ego. But no matter what we say, people are always going to have their own opinions, and they're always going to believe what they want to believe. Yes, our actions or our philosophies or the way that we show ourselves and live can influence other people to make mild changes within themselves that maybe they were just unaware of, and we've brought them to a higher state of awareness. But each individual is always going to have their own discernment for what's going on in the world. And my dog is drinking water in the background. But we're always going to have discernment, and there's always going to be discernment. There's always going to be questionable free thinking to an extent, unless you're not a free thinker. I don't know, that's just, that could be a thing too. But yeah, so pulling this all back around and this discernment and what we can let go of, and you know, the full moon, and I think it was just really funny that it, like I said, happened on Halloween, because we talk about the spirits and death, and Halloween, mind you, although we have turned it once again, like a lot of things, into a capitalistic holiday, it stemmed back from old Catholicism, and Hallows Eve was originally what Halloween was, and Hallows Eve was to celebrate the day before the Day of the Saints, which is today, November 1st, which is when I'm recording this episode. But it's the Day of the Saints, which is when you really celebrate the passing over of all of the spirits who, you know, have passed over into the otherworldly spaces or otherworldly energies, whatever you believe in. But obviously with Catholicism, it was the other, you know, worldly heaven or hell. And then when it got brought over and colonized in the Americas, we turned it into a holiday. So I just, when I was thinking about that and just thinking about how a lot of us are unaware of the energies that kind of go along with Halloween, and we celebrate, you know, a lot of scary things and we put out a lot of scary energy. Yet with this full moon, it was actually, to me, it was an analogy of, yes, there's the scariness, and a lot of people are, especially with this spiritual trend that everyone's hopping on and not being mindful of the energy and things that can be put out with our words, our affirmations, our actions, the things that we do, we see, and we say, that we're putting out a lot more, especially with everything that's been going on, putting out a lot more of just like different type of energies. It's like the yin and the yang. We've got like so much going on, and that heat, and then you've got like earth, you've got like all these elements being thrown at each other. And it's kind of like being manic, and everybody's just like, wow, what in the fuck is going on, right? And I know a lot of us can feel that because we're being pulled so many ways by media and mixed opinions and all of that, really. So what this comes to is, how can we be more mindful of what we're putting out? How can we be more mindful of those around us? And how can we be more mindful of self? And really letting go of that shit that's hard, because on Halloween, and with it being the full moon and letting go, what was revealed when people take off the masks, and or what has 2020 allowed you to see within people's auras, even though they have a mask on? And that is where I think a lot of us are finally coming into that true state of authenticity and discernment, because over the past 6-7 months, you've really stepped into yourself. A lot of people are harnessing energy, creativity, sensuality, and sexuality that I've never seen before. And I'm so proud of everybody for owning their shit and not being afraid of being disowned by a system that they realized maybe didn't support them, whether that was government, whether that was friends, whether that was their workspace. Like, we're really figuring out who, what in the universe has our back when we step into our authentic purpose, and when we, like Scorpio tends to hide, when we flourish and we're not afraid and we're not hiding who we are anymore. Who still has your back, and who left only because you had a mask on and only because you were showing a specific side of yourself? And once you unveiled that, and once you showed who you really were underneath all of that, who dipped out on you? Who doesn't show that same level of support and love? Who threw discernment out the window and doesn't have that same level of compassion and understanding? And we had this opportunity right now to either revert back to stepping back into that old way of like, okay, well, yeah, that was comfortable and I had the quote unquote fake ass support, or I can step into this energy now of like, damn, I'm bad, I know exactly who I am, and taking care of myself and being grounded and rooted in my purpose is the first step to creating that sensual, that sexual, that creative energy. And then it just starts to move up with being comfortable with yourself, with loving yourself, with speaking the truth, with seeing the truth, and then being completely authentic to yourself. All of those chakras start to align, you start to move and align with your soul's purpose, not feeling like you have to follow some path of what someone else told you. Maybe it fell through with those labels. right? And like, it's hard. A lot of us can feel so comfortable, and like, especially, you know, in the world where a lot of us are financially fucking struggling. Whether we are not receiving unemployment, whether our jobs are not as busy as they once were before, whether we're still looking for a job or we lost the jobs that we had and they're put on hold. Maybe we feel as if we have to revert back to this old self or hide a specific piece of ourselves because that will get us a specific level of codependency with someone that we need right now. But I'm telling you, if you let it go to a certain extent, I know we've all got to work through and do what we need to do, right? To make it, to put food in our bellies, to put a roof over our head. What can you let go of?